All right, man, in this video today, we're going to walk through the AMD chart, right? I get it. A lot of people are excited about AMD and NVIDIA and what's going on. So what we want to do today is we want to walk you through the chart. And at the end of the video, I'm going to really talk about if I was to get into an AMD option, where would I get into that? That's right. Where would I get in it? The goal for me is to help y'all make money no matter what the chart is, no matter what the stock is. I just want to walk you through it so you can understand how these candles are communicating with one another. And once you understand how these candles are communicating, you as a trader or investor can make the best possible moves. So before you get to this video, man, let's like, let's subscribe, and share this video out, y'all. But also comment below, because listen, we in this thing together, man. Try it with me. All right, man, so let's get straight into this AMD chart, man. All right, so what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to start off on the monthly chart, right? And so we're going to mark a couple things off that I like, just showing y'all. So the first thing we see is on this monthly chart, we see this doji candle right here. All right, so we're going to look at this current price, this doji candle right here. It is in the green, so we like that. Right, but let's mark off a couple of things. What we do know is right here, back in April, we see this is the April low, which is good at 75. So we see an uptrend in these three candles. We see a lot of buying pressure here, here, and here. Now, here's what we do know in the candles. We know when it's a green candle, we understand that the candle opened here, and then we understand at some point it got low here, and then it grew all the way up here, and then it closed here. So that 108 would be a good number for us. Just if we had to just look at the chart, that 108 would be a good number for us to look at to see where we at in that. What I like to do is I like to keep tabs on how much progress we made. So then we'll go into this second month, which is May. We see we at right here, right? Let's get back on our brush. We open here. That's at 110, which is right. So it's not a big gap up. And then we see we closed here at 140. So we do know for a fact that in June we went from 104. In June we went from 111 to 141. We got as high as 147, and we closed at 140. So we know June we closed at 140. So we'll put that on our list. Then we'll take this off the screen so you all can see that. All right. All right, then we come into July. With July, we see we opened here at about 139, so it came down, right? We got as low as 134, but then we got as high as 180 in July, and then we closed in July at 175, so that's good. So we'll put July 175. That's the price point. Now, I want you to look at something real interesting in the month of July that happened. Right, and we still in the month, y'all. Like, we're gonna walk through this thing. We see something interesting happening in the month of July. We saw that in the month of July, it got as high as right here, 180. Now I want you to look at something. Now this 180 puts us right on top of previous month right here. I mean, comes all the way back to May. So what it tells us is in July, we finally broke this high right here. So this is going to be important for us to see, right? We broke this high. We broke this high. And then we actually broke this high. So that tells us a lot about July. That tells us in the month of July was such a strong month. It broke the May close. It broke this May candle right here of 2024, April candle of 2024, which is good. And then, but it also broke the recent candle from October 2024. So that whole downtrend that it had from October all the way to this, and now this is key right here. When you see this at the bottom of a downtrend, when you see this candle, when you see this at the bottom of a downtrend, when you see this right here, this is letting you know that a reversal is in place. Right? When you see that at the bottom of a downtrend, that tells us for a fact that a reversal is in play. Now, the next thing I want you to realize is we still on this downtrend, y'all. We still on this monthly because this is important. From here, we also see, get back on my brush, we see this uptrend. We see this upward pressure from buyers. Now, that is essential to tell us that buyers have now stepped in. And that's what we want. We want buyers to step in so we know who is in control. So this tells us from here to here, buyers have stepped in and taken control of AMD, which is good. Now, that's just on the monthly. Now, let's go see what we see on the weekly. Now, I want you to notice something. This is essential. Notice how some of my marks are still there. So we doing what's called multiple time frame analysis. So we going from top, from the monthly. This is how I get into every play. I look at my monthly, then I look at my weekly. If my monthly and my weekly are green, right? The next thing I'm gonna do is go to my daily. So if my higher time frames all agree, now I want to see what happens in my lower time frames, right? So again, we get into the weekly. We still see that uptrend happening here, but now you see something that's interesting right here. And I always talk about this. This is called a base, right? So every uptrend steps on a base first. Now we see right here. This is uh that hangman. We see that hangman right here, right, which is on a monthly. Here's the hangman right here. Here's it is on a weekly, right? And then we have this base right here that this is built up of, right? So we take this out of the way. Let's get that out of there so we can see what's going on. I want y'all to see it clearly. So this uptrend is coming from, let's move this out the way. This entire uptrend right here is predicated off of this base right here, right? Because this is standing on this, right? So we like that, right? We like that. That looks good. Now, let's go to our daily. Now, remember, on a daily, everything now represents 1 day. So every candlestick we see now represents 1 day. And as you can see, look at that. Same uptrend. Ain't that amazing how when you look at the chart on one candle, how it buys into what you see on another chart? And that same uptrend we saw here on the weekly that we circled out here, look at it now on the daily, circling out here. But let's clean some of this off so we can see clearly what we need to see, right? Because I want to make sure y'all see this clearly. I want to make sure y'all understand what's going on as we get into this chart. Now, let's get into this chart, y'all. This chart is going to be real interesting. So now, as I get into the daily, not only am I understanding what's going into the chart, now I'm getting more into um, the entry points of the chart. Right now, I'm getting into my moves. So the weekly and the monthly, let me see it from a granular scale. But once I get into the daily, now I'm starting to see how it moves on a day-to-day basis. Now I'm starting to see more buyers, more sellers. I'm starting to see who took control in the daytime. So then we bring it down to the 4 hour. Now we starting to cut the day in half. And then the 1 hour is actually where we execute at. So as we get into the daily, the daily is where you really start to see what's going on. So let's get into it. So as we see on this daily chart, we see this still have that uptrend in place, right? And that's good. So this is the recent structure. Our overall trend is an uptrend, which is good, which coincides with the weekly, right? Which coincides with the monthly. As we see it right here, uptrend right here on the monthly. And then as we see right here, uptrend is still intact on the weekly. So we like to see that. Now, let's get into these specific candles, what we have, right? So first thing we're going to do is look at our current candle. So our current candle is right here, right? Current candle is right here, right? This is our current candle. So what we want to do is see what happens with this candle. So what this candle tells us is we see that it opened low. Let's do this. Let me open this up so y'all can really see it. Bring it to y'all. All right. So we see as this candle opened, right? This candle actually opened lower than the previous day candle, right? Now, we know that over the weekend for this candle, we had some ideas. We had some news about Trump putting 15% tariffs on NVIDIA and AMD behind some Chinese chips things going on. We know Trump put that on. So that could have caused that down. So we see, also AMD also missed earnings. They had a not so good of an earnings call, right? So what we see is we see the gap down, right? We see it opened here, and then we see this gap down right here on this, right? Let's make sure we mark that off so y'all can see it. So we see this gap, we see this down right here, right? So we see that. We see it open lower. So it closed. Let me just get some numbers on it. So it closed Friday at 172. It opened Monday at 170.07, right? Not major, nothing too crazy, nothing to make us run home and think that we got to get up out of here. But it did open lower. So let's see what the rest of this candle communication tells us. Right, so what we do see is we see a spinning top right here, which is kind of cool. We okay with that. And then we see here, we see buying pressure here, right? So these three candles tell us that there's some buying pressure here. Buyers stepped in. Sellers was indecisive between buyers and sellers. And then we had a gap down, right? But in that gap down, we also see that it lifted up. And so the gap down we talking about is right here between these two. Let me make sure I mark that because I want to make sure you all are walking with me as we go. So buyers stepped in here. Buying pressure came in here. Everybody right here got right. So we had the buying pressure here. The seller stepped in right here. And then in this one right here, we see that the buyers and sellers had some confusion. Right? We see that buyers and sellers had confusion right here. And then we had a right here, we had a lower open. I'm gonna put this LO. We had a lower open right there. So that's pretty good. Right? And we see at the end of the day, here's what happened. We noticed something happened at the end of this day. Let's just talk through what happened today. We saw buyers open low. We saw them push it up, and then we saw them get rejected. How do we know that it get rejected? Let's open it up a little more so we can see it again. We saw that the buyers had it all the way up here. It came up, and then it got rejected. So remember, it opened here at a low. It got all the way up here to about 172, and then it came back down and closed at 172.89. So we saw that. We paying attention to that. We see it. We understand it, right? Let me see in the chat that we understand it. All right. I just want to make sure we're on the same page, y'all. As long as we're on the same page, I'm all right with everything. All right. Let's go a little further now. All right. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video so we can help you move forward with what we got going on. All right, now let's get deeper into this. Let's get really deeper into what we see. All right, so this tells us, this candle right here tells us, this candle right here tells us that the buyers were in control. But right here, here's what we understand. Let me mark this off right here. I want to mark this off. Right here is interesting because we had a gap down right here, and the gap down pushed us all the way down to 158. This was on Wednesday. So we had a huge gap down right here, which is essential because now I want you to look at something. Right here, I'm going to put a mark right here so you all can see it. Move this up a little bit. I want you to look at where this base is at. All right. So that blue line that we got sitting right there became a base that it sit on. So we'll write that down at 163.20. Just follow along with me. 163.20. I want you to mark that as the next level of support that you need for in AMD. Right? 163.20. $163.20. Why is that a base? Because you see it sat right here on this candle. It drove up, came down. You saw it stop right here. It rejected this right here at 157 and closed right here. So moving forward, we want to sit on 163.20. So now if I'm looking at AMD, my thing is, watch this. If it comes down, this is my 20-day moving average right here. This right here, this line. Come on, man. Hey, we really we having a time right now, y'all. Right, so there we go. That right there is our SMA, right? So we'll write a line on that. Write a line on that. SMA, simple moving average, right? So that's our SMA. So long as our stock stays on top of the SMA The candle stay on top the S. The longest the candles stay on top of the SMA, we know that it is still in an upward trend. The 20-day SMA, long as it's on top of that 20-day SMA, we know we still moving in that upward trend. So here's what I would say. If this AMD come down to this line right here, right? We want to see it bounce here and then go up. That would be cool if we saw it do that. If we saw it bounce down to this 163 and then bounce back up, that would be essential for us, right? That would be nice. That would be nice work if we saw it do that, right? If it bounced on top of that. Why would it bounce on that? Because this is acting as new support. We saw it start right here and bounce up. We see it stop here. And once it hit here, reject. So we see here, goes up, stop here, goes up. So that's really good. So now that tells us that 163.20 can be some type of support for NVIDIA on the daily. Now, after that gap down, I'm not mad at that. Now, we got to also remember this. Right here, let's take this off so we can know what we're talking about. When we see this right here, I'm going to put another line on the chart for y'all. I'm going to change the color to orange. We'll make it a little thicker. This line at 182.43 is the next high. So we'll put a line on that. We'll put high. We'll put recent high. Get on our keyboard. We'll put recent high. Now, it's not an all-time high because what we do know is if we come back here using a monthly, we know that the all-time high is right here at 220, kind of about 226.61 is the all-time high. So we know that. So what we do know is from here, we can actually go back to 182. So our goal would be, hey, if it drops down to 163, it can hit us back at where we need to go at. And we see a huge rejection here. We see a rejection here at 178.70. We see a rejection at 178.70. So, and the thing about that 178.70 is, not mad at that. So we go with that 170. So that's what I would like to see right there. And see, now I want to see what happens again at 178.70. I want to see if when we get to 178.70 again, do we get rejected or do we come back up? Right? I want to see what happens if we come to 178.70. Do we get rejected? Come back up. Now, here's what I do want to see. Right? I hope y'all tell me how y'all feel about this in the chat, man. As we walk through these, is it better for y'all to see it this way? You know, as I'm writing on the board, we're gonna keep that right there. All right. So now here's what's important right here. We want to see it now. Watch this. Here's the level I want us to come across. I really want to see us take over where is that now? I want to see us take over this one. It closed at 173 today. I want to see it at least take over this 179. Now, I know the 183 is right there, but I want to see it take over this 179 because it hit this and it may bounce down depending on what's going on overnight. But taking over this 182.79 is going to be essential. But how do we get there? We may don't get there all in one day. It may take us some time. So let's go to our 4 hour and see what the 4 hour tells us because that's the daily. So now what we're going to do is get into the 4 hour so we can get a little bit more information. So the 4 hour allows us to get a little bit more information. The 4 hour allows us to, you know, set another milestone. Think about as you're going up the street, say, oh, this is a milestone. So you can look at it from a bigger perspective, or you can say, hey, this milestone here is where I need to get on top of. I can get on top of this milestone. And that's kind of what I do. I'll be like, yo, let me get on. If I can take this milestone here, I can go here. I don't just be like, yep, we're going to go straight to the top. So let's see what we got right here. And again, it's kind of what I said. If we can get on top of that 178, that was it right there. If we go from that 173, if we get back on top of this 178, which will be this candle here, which will put us right back here, right? I'll give you another dotted line. Because from here, I want to see us bounce 178. I want to see us bounce back on top of here and then bounce back up. So I would like to see us do something like this. Watch this, what I'm about to do. Watch what I'm about to do. I'm going to take this line I'm going to put it on top of this 178. I'm going to put it right up here on top of this. Right now, I'm going to change the color on it because these are going to be important for us to look at. Now, here's what I would like to see it do. Right? Here's what I would like to see it do. And so when I look at the market, I always look at the market as every price point becomes like a ladder, like a rung on the ladder that it has to climb on top of, right? And it just has to keep climbing. So sometimes you'll see people say the market is slow grinding. You'll see stuff like that. So for me, what I want to see it do is I want to see if it can get on top of here. All right, let's bring this back in. So we said that we want to see it. We say we want to see this. Now, mind you, look at on the 4 hour. Watch this. The first 4 hours of the market, it was green. The buyers took over and then rejected. And then the last half of the day, the sellers took over. So this is interesting as well. But also what happened is right here, you're getting what's called a base setup because you had this gap up right here. So because you had this gap up right here, right? Remember, gaps get filled 70-something% of the time. Right? So you had this gap up right here that fell right on this right here. And then you had this gap up right here. Right? So because you had that gap up right there, then you have the buyers took over. And then you got what's called some consolidation. Right? So you got some consolidation. It moved in the same range. It didn't go too far. It stayed there. So what I would want to see it do is I would want to see it bounce here at 163 and then bounce probably to the 178. And then from there, it may bounce right back in this range right here. Watch this. It may sit right back here at 172 and then bounce back here, right? And this is where we want to see it at. So once we hit on 179, that's kind of what we want to see.